Hi, Misha here, and earlier I did a comparison video looking at Diecast 172 scale models from a few different companies, just kind of comparing the pros and cons. In that video I had the Oxford, same plane here, the 262. I also had a P-51 Mustang or F-51 Mustang in that video from Corgi. And I had an F-84 Thunderjet from Skymax. And finally I had an F-86 Sabre from Hobbymaster. And I talked about what you get, what you don't, prices. Well, this opportunity came up and I thought this would be fun. I have 3 different Messerschmitt ME-262s. Now, I've already done a video using the one on the left here, talking about the history. So for that, you can check out that video. I also cover the ME-163 and the HE-162, the Hinkle. On our left, we have an Oxford model. These are priced at somewhere between $17 and $25, depending on when and where. Then in the middle, I have a Corgi. This is the Corgi Warbirds series. Their part numbers start with WB. This is also kind of their economy series. These range from about $20 to $30, so just a hair more than the Oxford. And then finally we have another Corgi, but this is from their so-called Aviation Archive series. And this is more of their high-end series, ranging from $40 to $60. Depending on when and where. Typically they're about $59, but you can find them on sale for $39. At least the Aviation. I think these are pretty much all out of stock now. So I was actually lucky to get these two, because you don't really find them anymore. I asked them why they quit making the Messerschmitt, and they said that people just weren't buying them. And to that I say, for shame. I am not the biggest Nazi collector, not at all, but I do like German stuff. And this plane's place in history is so important. I mean, and it looks cool. I don't know why people wouldn't buy it. At least the, cheaper versions. But as far as I know right now, about the only 172 diecast you can get is the Oxford. I know that Amercom, whatever, which is even a little bit cheaper than these, makes one, but I would really say go for the Oxford. And in the past, Forces of Valor made one, but they don't anymore. So, yeah. Let's talk about these and what the difference is. Now, we've already looked at this one in a few videos, so I'm not going to get really into it. This does not have a pilot or movable landing gear. The Oxford planes, the gear are always up. Also, if you get anything with a prop, the prop will not spin. But these do tend to be quite solid. Even chunky. And they come with an OK stand. Now comparing it to the Corgi, which is the same model here. It's the single-seat fighter variant of the Messerschmitt. We have a little more detail. The panel lines are a little thinner and a little more detail. Still no opening canopy or pilot though. Also still no moving landing gear. They're just up. I will say though, and I don't know if you can see it on camera, not with me aiming the camera, I apologize probably, but the seams are less visible than on the Oxford. You can really see the seams on the engines and on the fuselage here, where that all comes together. And they're more flush on the Corgi. Also, the stand is a little better. This is actually a metal arm. It's just a very simple flat base, but it works, and it can be moved on the stand. The Corgi stands, usually you can rotate the planes, which is nice for display. So I'd say it's a little better stand, and a little nicer detail, and a little bit better fit finish. But otherwise, feature-wise, they're identical. Moving over to the Aviation Archive, though, these are getting to have features more like a Hobbymaster or a Caliber wings. It comes with landing gear up or down. If a plane has ordnance, it'll come with it. Sometimes they're pre-installed, sometimes you can install them. If the wings were to move, you can usually move them with the Aviation Archive. And they have pilots in the cockpit, typically. They also tend to have a few more details, like more antennae, or radar dishes, and more detail to the engines. More decals, just a little more detail. Now, some of the time the canopy's open, and some of the time they do not. And some of the time I'm too much of chicken shit to try because I don't want to break anything. So they may very well open, and I just don't know on some of my Corgi. The Oxford has metal wings, and the top part of the fuselage is all metal. The tail vertical is metal. The side horizontal is plastic polymer. The underside is somewhat metal, like the wings, but the engine and kind of the bottom of the body is plastic. And it does, I'll try to do this, have some kind of, a few holes and things for screws. So the underside's a little kind of under-detailed. Comparing that with the Corgi, we still have plastic rear, metal here. Still, let's see, the engines are actually metal, not plastic. The underside is basically all metal and has more recessed screw holes and such. This is weightier quite a bit. Now part of that, of course, is that the stand is metal, so off the stand less so, but picking it up, it does feel more substantial. And finally, the Aviation Archive is the same. Plastic in the rear, metal here. Metal. The underside has some plastic where the gear go, either up or down. So actually it probably has a little bit more plastic than the Warbirds one, but of course the swap to that is you get that function. This is the 2-seater variant. I really picked this up because this is the only one I could find in the Aviation Archive. But it's kind of neat. The ME-262B was used as a trainer, but it was also used as a night fighting plane. The rear guy was a radar operator. So these did see combat. Of course, anything at the end of the war in Germany was going to see combat. There weren't that many trainers made. So it's a neat version. Basically, to fit the second guy, they took out one of the fuel tanks. So these had a little bit shorter range, but of course they could be fitted with drop tanks, I believe. And otherwise we're the same jet. So, which is for you? Well, let's just assume you can actually get these. And of course the same holds true for other, products. The Oxford is fine to sit on a shelf. They're inexpensive. They're actually pretty durable because there's just not a lot of detail to get broken off the edges. And really they'll do fine if you just want a little 262 to sit on a desk. They would probably even suffice for a older child, who wanted a plane and who was reasonably careful. Obviously, a kid would break any of these pretty quickly, but this would be the one to start them off with because, if nothing else, they're cheaper. I will also say that Oxford is neat because they do some planes, again, like the HE-162, that no one else does. But honestly, if you have the choice between the Oxford and the Corgi, Warbirds, I'd go the Corgi. Comes in a nicer box. Still about the same price, just a few dollars more. And you do get more detail. And it's a little more metal. And you get a better stand that can rotate. Which is, again, pretty neat, I think. But yeah, it just has a more substantial feel, frankly. So this would be my personal choice if it were me. But again, they're harder to find, so most likely today you'll find the Oxford. And then finally, the Aviation Archive. These are pretty much analogous to Hobbymaster. They usually have a few less accessories. The pilots usually aren't removable. So maybe not quite the same level, but they usually come with the landing gear, like I said, extra flaps, or if the wings move, so they're still pretty configurable, and they are cheaper than Hobbymaster still by a bit, and a lot cheaper than a Caliber or Century wings. So if you can afford it, and you want options, I definitely think this is the way to go. It's essentially still the same tooling mold as the Warbirds, but it has more put into it. And most always these Aviation Archive airplanes are limited productions of anywhere from 500 to 5,000 depending on the plane. I don't know if they'll ever really be collectible, but they do come with a little card and, something for collectors to kind of get all excited about. So, yeah, why not? But I would rate these pretty much on par, maybe just one step below a Hobbymaster. I would rate these mostly on par with an Oxford, but just a step above. An Oxford, again, they're not bad. I would definitely take one over, say, an Atlas or an Americom. They do have more detail than an Atlas, and they're more durable than the Americom. I've had problems with the Americans just breaking. They don't use a lot of metal, and what they do use is very thin metal, in my opinion. So yeah, just a little comparison video on ME-262s. Any questions or comments, feel free to post them below. If you could, like, share, and subscribe, and check out some of my other videos. And this is Misha, and I'll catch you very soon next time.